Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin our webinar. Please be ready for our opening prayer and the singing of the national anthem.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فقال ربكم ادعوني أستجب لكم آمين يا رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم اجمع شامل المسلمين والكريستيان والأمة في مدينة دباو وسلم دائما مجتمعنا هذا بالسلم والأمن والتقدم في بلدنا هذا آمين يا رب العالمين ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين يا رب العالمين.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise and worship you and give you thanks for all the things you continue to provide for ourselves and our families. Father, we humbly ask for forgiveness for all the times we have offended you, when we forget to acknowledge your presence in the image of our brothers and sisters, and for moments we fail to be good stewards of the blessings you have given us. Continue to guide and protect each one of us, Lord, that we may always walk in the light of your everlasting love and mercy. Grant us, Father, with your comfort in times of distress and with your strength in times of weakness. Bestow upon us your unending grace and healing, that we may in turn become instruments of gentleness and compassion to others. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, with the prayer and the intercession of our Blessed Mother. Amen.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang ang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting. Sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw. May nilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Norman Padilla, the head of the Ateneo Career Center and Alumni Hub. With me is Mrs. Maria Rosana Fernandez, the president of the Ateneo Blue Knight Association, and Mr. Frederick Villegas, the PRO of the Ateneo Blue Knight Association. We will be your facilitators for this webinar. Welcome to the second webinar in our series entitled 4G, or Forge Your Future, Gain, Grit, Grow, and Give. In our previous webinar, we talked about how to make yourself stand out in an already competitive job market through your resume and the interview. This time around, we will be discussing about entrepreneurship and professional networks. It is our aim that through this webinar and from our distinguished speakers, we will be able to inspire you to strike out on your own, work on your passion, think outside the box in terms of career and employment. Not only that, we also want you to see the importance of forming connections with other professionals and building your network, especially among our alumni. In essence, for this series of webinars, our main objective is for you to gain the knowledge you need so you can develop the grit to be able to adapt to this new situation and thereby grow in your chosen or future professions. And in the end, give back to those in need. Thus, fulfilling the tenets of our Ateneo formation of Magis and of being men and women for others. It is our hope that at the end of this, you will face the challenges wrought by this pandemic head-on and come out on top. Lastly, this webinar is being held as our way of responding to the needs of our stakeholders, the students and alumni of Ateneo de Davao University in the midst of this global pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar will be unlike the others as we will employ a free-flowing discussion format. We will be asking our distinguished speakers questions on the matters stated earlier, and they will answer according to their expertise. You can take notes or do voice recordings of the proceedings if you need to. Also, please do not forget to mute your microphones. You may also turn off your cameras if you experience lag. If you have some questions, type them in the chat box, or you may ask them later during the open forum. However, we will be giving priority to the questions we solicited during the registration. If we have enough time, we will entertain any questions that you may have. Now I would like to call on Mrs. Maria Rosana Fernandez to introduce our guests.
Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to the second webinar of Ateneo Career Center and Alumni Hub, and also the Ateneo Blue Knight Association. It is our pleasure to be with you today. So also, it is our honor for our first speaker. He is a graduate of Ateneo High School, Batch 85, also finished in Ateneo de Davao College in 1989. Ladies and gentlemen, he will now give his own self-introduction. But briefly, he is the owner of, he is an insurance professional since 2000 and a 10-year $1 million roundtable member or a lifetime MDRT member. And he is part of PruLife UK. He owns Borromeo Insurance Agency Incorporated. So ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and our privilege to introduce Mr. Paul Borromeo. Can you, sir, please introduce yourself for the participants?
Okay. Maayong hapon sa tanan. Good afternoon, everybody. First off, I'd really like to thank the association, the Alumni Association, and Ateneo for inviting me to share my insights with you this afternoon. So as Mrs. Fernandez has mentioned, I'm probably the oldest speaker in the room. There's this really nice, quote that I heard the other day. I'm not 52. I'm just 16 with a lot more years of experience. So so that's what I'd like to be able to bring today. Now, in high school, I was the SEC president during the time, and I was also part of the the Corps of Cadet Officers in CAT, no, the Citizens Army Training. I doubt if anybody has ever even remembers that anymore. And during my stint in Ateneo College, I was very active in the business organization, which is ISEC. I was the local committee president, and then after ISEC, after my stint in Ateneo, I moved up to the national committee as the regional development officer for the local committee of the Philippines. So that being said, that's my background in terms of Ateneo. And now, as mentioned by Mrs. Fernandez, I'm together with my wife and my ex-girlfriend and my now permanent roommate, and my two sons. We operate the Borromeo Insurance Agency for the past 20 years. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. I've known Paul for quite a while now, and he's very credible person in this topic that we had for this afternoon. For our next speaker, I've also had the privilege of working with her in the Ateneo Blue Knight Association. She's very instrumental in the success of last year's homecoming. Her name is Pia Lourdes Montano. She's an alumna of Batch 94 and College Batch 98. She's currently the General Manager and Proprietor of PAR Travel and Tours. So, Pia, if you're there, can you give the audience a little background of yeah, go ahead, Pia.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I would like to thank ABCA for inviting me to share my experience to all the fresh graduates or kung medyo matagal na nag-graduate. But thank you very much for the invitation. During high school, I was a very shy person. So, ano lang ako, nasa sidelines lang ako always. But when I studied college naman sa Ateneo, so that's when I started to bloom. I was part of the Carillon Glee Club and AMARC, Ateneo Marketing Club. So basically that's it. So when I graduated, I started in the retail business, but I really fell in love with the tourism industry, and that's why that is where I stayed. I started to be in the tour operations and travel agency business since 2004 and until now.
Thank you so much, P. So we have now our third speaker, and he's from the younger generation. And we were actually very excited when his name came up. No, he was recommended by a also a very credible alumni. So let me introduce to you, from College Batch 2012. Okay, Mr. Josh Supan. We'd really like to hear your story, Josh. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Josh. I graduated a few years ago, I guess 8 years now. I want to thank the Ateneo Alumni organization for having me, but I also want to thank, I don't know if Mr. Oliver is here, but thank you for recommending me. Mr. Oliver was my boss before and in SM here, there in Davao, so it's pretty cool that he still remembers me. I did go to high school or grade school in Ateneo. I went there in Ateneo de Davao. I took business there, and I was not really that active when it came to orgs. I guess the biggest accomplishment I have is being in honors class for 4 years, but also being in the basketball team. So that's kind of rare. But at least, got good grades and still play basketball. So over there. I am the founder and CEO of Xpanse. Xpanse is a tech company here in the Philippines, one of the leading e-commerce enablers here. And very proud to be, a graduate of Ateneo. So thanks again, everybody. Looking forward to hearing from the other speakers as well.
Thank you so much. So indeed, no, we're really looking forward to listening to our three distinguished speakers. So we would like to start our questions. So we're going to take turns. We're going to start with Mr. Borromeo and then followed by Pia and of course Josh. Josh, sorry, ikaw pinakabata, no? So you're the salt and pepper now. We have the meat and the vegetable. So we have the same question for all three of you. So after you have given your answer, you can pass it on to the next speaker. So for our first question, okay, where are you now in your career? And tell us briefly how you started on your current career path. So let's go ahead. Seniority, sorry. Mr. Paul Borromeo, go ahead.
It's so difficult to do a brief introduction when you're in this, when I'm in this industry for 20 years. So, but let me start off with this. When I started after college, everything was my mind was very idealistic, especially with my exposure in ISEC. I thought that everything had to be in systems and everything had to be taken care of. So when I got back from Manila for 1 year, after 1 year staying there with the National Committee, I put up my own shop because that was my passion at that time, to be able to do fabrication, to be able to do repairs, to be able to do restorations and everything. So that was a lot of fun, no? Because during that time, in 1990, there were no new cars that were coming in. Everybody had to repair whatever they had at that point, right? And every 5 years, the cars would always just break down and you'd have to repair it. So there's always a steady stream of repairs that you would need to do. Now, I tried to systematize everything, and the reality hit that when you're in the real world, it's not all about what we've learned in the books. So there came the time of adjustment that I needed to do. So that was really, we decided to close that business when the sales were already going down, until such time we still had enough cash to be able to reboot and pivot to another industry. So we closed that business in 1996. In 1996, I started again another enterprise, which during that time, internet in in Davao City was very, very rare, and we had internet cafes. And if you can imagine, at that time, with the 28.8 Mbps, we were charging 100 pesos per hour. So that was a lot of fun. Just looking at the websites loading, because I knew that every minute that was passing, I was making some sort of income. Until a lot of people, competition started to build. And from 100, it became 75, it became 50. And I said, sooner or later, we will just have to buy coffee and the internet will be free. So we stopped that, because during that time also in 1998 was the Asian financial crisis. So we took out a loan for that internet cafe, and we were paying something like 28% per annum. Imagine 28% of whatever it is that you loaned, you'd have to pay as interest. So we had to stop it, and we had to pivot again to another business. So we decided to, so that's my second failure. My third one was really more of accessories now, bows and bands. No, we bought a franchise. The problem there was that they were sending us the items that were not saleable in Metro Manila. So we would end up with having really expensive items here in Davao. So it did not sell either. So we had to close down that enterprise again. After that, we were in a crossroads already. At 32 years old, I didn't know exactly where I was going, until such time that I was able to receive an invitation to listen to something like this, maybe something like a webinar at that time. No? And I said, what do I have to lose? It was held at the Marco Polo. I said, the worst case scenario is that I will probably just have a free dinner at the Marco Polo. And after that, I went home at 9 o'clock in the evening, woke my wife, and that until 4 o'clock in the morning, we were pushing the figures. And in 2 weeks' time, we decided to plunge head on, take out a loan out of our house, which is the worst thing you can ever do, and built our office so that our backs were against the wall, so that we could continue with what it is that we wanted to do. So where am I at right now? 20 years down the road, my wife and myself, we still operate the first general agency of PruLife UK. We have 800 agents in our agency, which we started out with 5. For the past 20 years, we've already been able to secure at least 20,000 families, help them with their finances. We've been able to produce so many people to have so much better income, so many success stories in the 800 people that we have in our roster. And we're continuing with that mission 20 years down the road with the sole partnership with the company that we are in at this point in time. My biggest achievement, I think, is that both our sons decided on their own to join our industry. I did not force them to do anything. I did not tell them that you should join it because this is our family business. But on their own, they decided, and they're bringing so much innovation, so much excitement, so much energy into our industry right now. And we're very, very excited. You know, at 20 years down the road, we're still excited every day to see what's up and what's coming for us. So, yeah, I think that sums up what I have to say about that. Thanks very much, San.
Pia, you can now also start. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So I started in the after graduation. I went into the family's retail business. Siguro kung sino mga taga North, they would know Anipay Grocery in Lanang. So I was the general manager there for about 4 years after graduation. But because of the long office, operation working hours, I told myself medyo mahirap siya for me because I start at 5 in the morning, I close the shop at 10 in the evening. So when I get home, hindi na ako kilala nung anak ko. So I said, no, this won't work for me. So since my family is in the, my family has different businesses, small ones, medium size na mga businesses. So I told my parents, I want to take the travel and tours business, which started as a very small ticketing office back in 1993. So I was still in high school then. But I was very interested with that business. I even used it as a subject for my marketing project in college. And so I was really interested in it, and then I told my mom, I want to take the travel and tours. I want to make it bigger, and she said, maliit na business yan, walang kita dyan. So I told her, I'm really interested with this one. Can you just ask me to manage this, and I'll take care of the rest. So from being a ticketing office with three employees, we came up to about 7 or 8 employees and all. We have corporate clients, families, groups that we do. We assist for both domestic and international travel, and we have sub-agents as well. Since then, kasi, this is something that I'm very passionate about. So, as they said, which is I will mention later, even if, something like a crisis like the one we have now will happen, or right now is happening, this is something very close to my heart. So even if it's very, very, very hard, I cannot abandon, this industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Go ahead, Josh. It's your turn.
All right, cool. I think I'll work backwards because I don't have a lot of stories to tell. I guess I'll tell you where I am right now, then I'll work backwards from there. Right now, like I said earlier, we are, I'm the founder of an e-commerce enabler called xpanse. So what we do, when you say the word e-commerce enabler, and when you say the word tech company here in the Philippines, you immediately think that the industry is not that big yet, and you'd be right there. Also, e-commerce is just at its infancy stage because, the top of mind when it comes to e-commerce is still like Lazada and Shopee. So being an e-commerce enabler is something opposed from that, where you help brands, brick and mortar brands, go online. So that's what we do for them. We focus on that market. So when I started my career actually in SM, that's why I know Mr. Oliver. I started my career there. I was a Smith Pro for SM Prime. So when you say Smith Pro, you are one of the management trainees, and you go through a 6-month school and learn from the execs of SM. And the reason I chose that job, even if I had a bunch of offers after graduation, is because during my college time, I was paying really close attention to the industry out west. So back then, Amazon was still, it's not the giant he was before. I think he recently back then, he was just transitioning from selling books online to, being a full marketplace. And something's very true with the Philippine market. If something is, working in the States, give it 4 years, it's going to be a thing here. So my mind was already set that, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur, but specifically, I want to be an e-commerce entrepreneur, and I want to be in that industry. That's why when I graduated, when I was going to college, I was just, to be honest, I was just going through the motions. I was every day for 4 years. I mean, I enjoyed my stay and stuff, but I was really waiting for the time to graduate and head out there and try to figure out how I'm going to be an e-commerce enabler here. So when I graduated, I had offers from different companies like Shell and PAL and SM. And even if SM was more of the okay, you're going to be a student again for 6 months, I took that job because before you understand a certain industry, you kind of have to understand its roots first. So for me, before I go to e-commerce, best I understand brick and mortar first before going to anywhere else, right? So I started there. I was really deliberative. I think the earliest I found out about Amazon was I was in high school. I remember I was sitting in Davao Christian, and then I was basically a kid, and I was always reading, and I was always sick because ever since I was young, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to be somebody who doesn't do normal stuff, something who does something unique in a way. And yeah, so e-commerce made sense for me. So I'm very proud to represent a company that's doing really well, because if you look at our tech, because we're not like Western markets where you have a lot of successful tech companies. It's very hard to succeed in tech here in the Philippines because you have limited support when it comes to VCs and investments, and it's not like people like Slack, Lyft, Uber, Grab. It's not the same reception when you're in tech here in the Philippines. It's more of if you're in tech here, you're really one of the pioneers, even in 2020. So I started the company in 2017. I spent 5 years in SM, and then right after I started my business, and I started my business helping brands go online by building their sites and doing their fulfillment automatically. So yeah, yeah, and now it's, I know it, I know we're not opposed to feeling the strain of what's happening right now in our country. Yeah, it's really tough for everybody, but um, we we're actually not in decline because we're in e-commerce, right? So we actually, you know, are winning more accounts right now because a lot more brands, a lot more mall brands are, you know, panicking in a way because they can't open their brick and mortar, or their brick and mortar is not doing so well. So their only response is, you know, I have to get into e-commerce, and it's good. I was in this industry for 3 years, so I kind of know the ins and outs. So I guess if you're, I guess I'm a mall. I came from the mall industry, so we have a lot of times to the point that if you walk around the mall, I could confidently say that 75% of those brick and mortar clients are our clients already. So it's either we made their site or we're doing their fulfillment. So um, so it's very, again, I was going to go back. It's very rare to have a successful tech company in the Philippines, and even, you know, a tech company that's, you know, just doing break even, or, you know, has incremental success, people go out of their way to call you something that you're not. So, but it's still nice to be recognized, because last year, I think early last year, when people started hearing about our business and hearing about our potential and studying our market, people started calling us like the next unicorn here in the Philippines. And a unicorn is a tech company that's worth $1 billion. So it's nice to be recognized in that extent, but there's so much work for us to do before we reach that point, obviously. But you know, when you're in tech, if you're in the right industry and and you're solving the right problem, anything's possible. So yeah, if there are any fresh grads here, I just turned 28, so, and I graduated a few years ago. So it's, you know, I would love to, you know, I guess that's why I'm here, to give more advice on how to get to certain places. But I won't say that I'm an expert or whatever. To be honest, I always consider myself more lucky than skilled. So yeah, I'll do whatever I can. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Paul and Pia. It's already quite inspiring, no? We just had like 30 minutes of into the meeting, and we're already learning a lot. So I'm sure the combined experience of our guests has truly inspired our participants as well. Interestingly, they all had tried different ventures until they found what it is that they really want to pursue. So our next question is, what made you decide to take the path less traveled, so to speak, or the road to entrepreneurship and not employment? And what was your aha moment that made you pursue such a current path? So again, let's start with Paul, Pia, and then Josh.
Okay. Thanks, Biggs. Oh, it's so difficult to look back on a 20-year span again, no? But like Pia, who has the passion, and Josh, who looked and saw this innovation and really the drive to be able to succeed in what you do. I banked on my failures in the past, and those were expensive lessons, but they were lessons nonetheless, no? Now, the only motivation really for me to have been able to go out of the norm was because of my background. My background in the family, we've always been taught, and we've always been encouraged, even during grade school or high school, we've always been encouraged to work on our own and work on something that we enjoy. Okay. And I tried to find my path through that. And being married at that time with 2 growing children, I wanted to be able to ensure that they were well taken care of down the road. So my wife and I, because I would never have been able to do this without Nina, my wife and I, we had a certain criteria of our business. Number 1 is we wanted to be able to find a career where we could pay our associates well. Number 2, we wanted an office of our own. Number 3, we wanted to travel. We wanted to experience the world, because that was our vice with my family. Number 4, we wanted to have a business where we could hand it over to our children. Number 5, we wanted to have a purpose in what it was that we were doing. So if you look at my history, it was service in the talier, service in the internet cafe, service in the accessory business, and now it's still service. And today, during this this situation we're at right now, this has made it even clearer to me that our work and our passion has to be anchored on service, because if it isn't, then it would be very difficult to transition or to even move on a day-to-day basis. Kasi kung pera-pera lang, there are other things, no? But service and passion and the drive is very important. P?
Yeah, you there?
Okay. For me, like when I started the business, it was something that was, it's the path chosen for us. The women in our family are, not kumbaga, hindi, how do you say it? Everyone is in business. Everyone in the family, all the women in our family handles the business. So that's how we were taught. Yun yung autopilot sa amin. So going to work for another company actually is not an option. I wanted to go another way, but they said, being the eldest in the family, it's good to be in business. You are your own boss, and you have everything set up for you. You just have to. Actually, what my mom said was, ito ang pamana ko sa inyo. Yung business na ibibigay sa inyo, kayo bahala magpalago nitong binigay sa inyo. So when we start the business, we start it very small. They give it to us like very, very, very small, and then after that, it's up to us to make it grow. So that's how I started in the business. But as long as you love what you do, like for example, for me as a travel and tours owner and also the general manager, day to day when I do my business, when I deal with the clients and I make sure the clients are taken care of. When it comes to the tours, from the start, pag-alis to coming back, it has to be perfect, if not near perfect, but like everything has to be in place. So if you are the person who likes that industry, which is how I love the tours and the tourism industry, there's no other way for me. There's no other option actually.
I guess it's my turn. Well, okay, so in tech, it's quite different. So in tech, when you're starting something in tech, it's not a defined market, so to speak. So there isn't a precedent in your local market. So I'll give you a brief background of what we do. So what we did was we made an app that can collect orders from multiple channels. So from different websites, different social media, and our API, what it does, it sends orders to couriers automatically. Because when we were looking at the landscape, we didn't have anybody. We had couriers, but it was manual. Nothing was automated, and in the States they had no reason to automate it because they're one big island. So if you give an item to UPS, UPS can ship it anywhere in the States. It's quite different in the Philippines because it's 7,000 islands. So shipping something from point A to point B is a little bit difficult. So the only, I guess the question was, what's my aha moment, right? On why I started this thing. Yeah, again, it's not a defined market, but when it comes to tech, once you're in it to solve problems, you know what I mean? You're not in it to make money. You're not in it to get famous or whatever. Though tech companies that succeed in the tech market, the tech companies that succeed in our industry are people who have a simple problem that they are solving in the most innovative way possible. So when okay, how do I say this? Mr. Oliver is here, so this might kind of sound shady or whatever. But when I was in SM, my job was to sell retail spaces to certain brands, and my job also for a time in Manila was to help brands open their retail shops. So when I saw that brands were not really aggressive going inside the e-commerce industry, I would ask them frequently now, okay, so why don't you have your site? Why are you not selling online? Why are you still building 200 branches and whatnot? And just not to steer them away from SM, just to understand, okay, why are you doing what you're doing? And the problem we saw based on the problem I saw based on just talking to my clients before was, okay, it's really hard for us to go online because number one, the main reason is even if I go online, how do I give my item from Manila to Jensen, to Cebu, to Cotabato? And that's where I was like, okay, that's my aha moment. This is the problem I want to solve. I want to solve logistics with not, being a logistics provider. So usually when you're in e-commerce and you're trying to solve that logistics problem of e-commerce and parcel shipping, the solution usually is you build your own logistics company. You hire fleets, hire people, and hire trucks to do your shipping. But I kind of took a page out of Airbnb and Uber, where Airbnb is a hotelier without hotels. Uber is a taxi service without taxis. So I kind of thought to myself, why can't I be a logistics provider without a logistics business or without even a single rider? Last year, we shipped out I think 60,000 orders worth 140 million pesos. And I don't have a single rider. All I do is, with technology, I do automated fulfillment and I do API integrations and all that. And I help not disrupt, but build the logistics industry here in the Philippines. So that was really it. And if you're starting your business, I guess any industry, not just tech, the tech side of things, it's really identifying the problem first. And if you're passionate enough and I guess you're lucky and smart enough to solve the problem, then go for it. But yeah, like if I guess your goals are well defined and you know what you're doing stuff day in and day out, then success might be right there. So that's for me.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope the participants are taking notes, no? Not just quotable quotes, but really the things that our speakers have done. And I think one of the interesting questions that we'd like to pose now, we have a very challenging situation. It is unprecedented. Everybody has been caught unaware. And there are so many obstacles that we need to deal with, no? So we'd like to ask our speakers, in your case, during this pandemic, what has been your major struggles and how are you now overcoming them? And maybe we'd also like to ask, what personal values keep you afloat or even succeeding despite the many challenges? So I'd like now to ask Mr. Paul Borromeo first, please.
So the major struggles in this business during this time is if you really think about it, our business is a touch business. We're very much into face to face. We're very much tailor fitting what our clients needs. The same with Pia, I think. No, it's really tailor fit, and even with Josh, it's tailor fit on how you'll be able to deliver your service. So my business is based on relationships, and it's very difficult to base a relationship on online. It's very difficult to reach out and be present online. However, what I've found in the beginning of the quarantine, we were scrambling. We were scrambling like crazy. We were unsure. There was no clarity in what was happening and how we were going to survive. and then we were so worried about sales. We were so worried about how to be able to continue our trajectory. Kasi January, February, March, grabe, our sales were much better than last year. So we were so excited to go into 2020, it being our 20th year for that matter. So we were worried about that. Maybe the first week, it was a mixture of fear, anxiety, and confusion. But there was a very clear situation where I said, this is not about sales. This is about service. We have to be present in front of our clients whom we have served for the past 20 years. We have to reach out to them. We have to tell them about certain things. We have to strengthen that relationship with our clients. Secondly, we needed to strengthen our relationship with the 800 agents that we have, because we needed for them to know that the ship was being steered properly and it was going towards a certain direction. We needed to be able to reach out to them. So we created, instead of holding on to cash, we put out a lot of cash during the quarantine. We created the Silver Lining series, where we brought in speakers from different industries, spirituality, emotional quotient, communication, physicality, and then mind setting, so that we could build a stronger foundation with our agents. And I think during that time, plus the innovation, we needed to innovate very quickly, transfer everybody from the office to working from home. And that happened in a week. We were so surprised that we were able to do that. So again, when your back is against the wall, you will find whatever it takes. You will do whatever it takes to be able to succeed. You will do whatever it takes to be able to prosper and to be able to move forward. So those were the major challenges that we faced. But I think the only reason why we were able to overcome it is because we came together as a team with a very clear vision of what it is that we wanted to achieve. And it was no longer about the profit and the money. It was more about the people. It was more about the clients who we wanted to serve. Because we also thought that nothing has changed in our industry. Nothing has changed. The pandemic did not change anything in our industry. People will still get old. People will still fall sick. People will still meet accidents. And unfortunately, people will still pass on. And this is the time for us to step up. And that's why we really stepped up by being present and by being available to our existing clients and reaching out to more people as much as possible. The second point also was, we found out mid-quarantine that a lot of people lost their jobs. So what we tried to do was we tried to pivot in giving back to those people an opportunity to join our team, to be part of our team. Because our team, maybe out of the 800, not a lot of them really suffered through the quarantine, because there was still income coming in every week for most of our agents, because they were working quite hard last year and early this year. So tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung kanilang income. So that's what we wanted to give back, and that's what we wanted to provide. And we're still providing that to the people in Davao right now, the opportunity to be able to join us and learn from our lessons. Yeah. Pass the ball over to Pia.
Okay. If kay Sir Paul, their industry was not affected, it's the total opposite of my industry. Total, exact opposite. Because like when during the pandemic, when the pandemic started, the whole tourism industry went into a halt. So wala lahat, zero, everything zero. April was, like the month parang when it started yung medyo ano talaga siya, it started in March eh. In March, we were very busy because we were helping our clients who were, like stranded somewhere. We had to rebook stuff, ganun, for them. So, that was when they realized that having an agent is very important because you cannot do that when you bought the ticket online. So, that's what you pay for, the service. So, that's what we've been doing until the end of March. April, ECQ, May, but when June came, like we saw that, the tourism industry was, hit very, very, very hard. And, the struggles was we were comparing through, the hotels, restaurants, travel and tours. Although the hotels have started to, operate, but the travel and tours in the travel and tour sector is still on 0 to 10% operational, just like my office. So, like right now with this pandemic, a lot of us were displaced. So what I did was, from renting out an office, renting an office, I had to transfer my office to, I had one constructed in my home, a separate office in my home, to take out the big rent cost. And then, as of now, kasi there's no operation for everyone. But, what we did during this pandemic was first study on the product. There will be products. I am sure that the tourism industry will come back, will make a stronger comeback. So we do outbound, we do inbound travel service for our clients. So the best thing that we are doing is we do product research. We study on the new products that we can sell, and then keep our expenses on a very minimum. And also, it is also very important for us to make sure that our clients are, serviced well, because like right now there are a lot of refunds. There are a lot of refunds, so we need to service them, or insurances that need to be refunded. So right now we're working on all of those, even without the sales. But that's the commitment that we give to our clients, that we will be here even if there's no business, and we will wait until it comes back. Aside from that, since it's my husband and I who are handling the business now, and since there's no business right now, what I have done is I've also applied to teach. So first I was thinking, mag-English teacher kaya ako. But it's not work. I don't think it works. So I decided that I would teach tourism management course for, it's my way of giving back, because like the experience that I have, I can share to, the younger students who are studying tourism management, and imparting my knowledge to them and my wisdom would be a great a big impact. Probably it would give a big impact to the students. Aside from that, the small small food business, just to have a little bit income. But like right now, we're just floating, waiting for tourism to come back.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. I just want to say I'm also learning from my other two speakers. That's really cool also. Well, okay, usually when you're running a business, I think for me, something that I really honed on when we were starting this is you have to have an offensive plan. You have to have an offensive plan. You set 5-year marks, 10-year marks, 15-year marks, what you're gonna do and where do you plan to succeed. Though we weren't extremely hit, because again we were e-commerce, and it was, we were the only industry like sending out brick and mortar items that time. It was still unexpected because, you know, when it started, when they did quarantine March 15, I remember thinking to myself, April, wala na yan. It's back to normal. You know, this is just a phase for 2 weeks, but we're at September and we're still here. So it's you know, it's unprecedented. Definitely, because when it comes to tech and when it comes to our investors and stuff like that, you really have to show exponential growth. But obviously, you can't achieve you can't achieve that anymore because your offensive plan goes out the door. You know what I mean? Our 5-year plan started becoming a 6-month plan. You know, what are we gonna do in the next 6 months? Our offensive plan started becoming a defensive plan. Like, how do we survive this, or how do we help our vendors survive this? Because even if we weren't affected, so to speak, our vendors were. Our vendors had one of our vendors, for example, let's say Lacoste. Lacoste had how many brick and mortar shops are closed already, and all they're relying on is their e-commerce already. So all their focus went into online, and serving them was quite a challenge because I think So we started shifting our planning and our mindset from 5 years to 5 months, and on a vendor approach, we tried our best to even serve the ones who can't afford us. So we started making plans and tiers and special services for clients who are solo entrepreneurs. So what we saw when around April and June, we saw that, because usually we serve brick and mortar and we serve big name brands, but when we saw that people were getting fired left and right, and people had no jobs, or their pays got cut, a lot of people were starting to sell online, and random stuff, like people were making cookies, and that's the only product they have, and they're gonna sell it through Facebook. And we're like, okay, I get it. How do we help them reach the most possible customers also? Instead of focusing on big name brand.coms, how do we focus on, how do we help also the Facebook sellers who's just one person selling one product? How do we help those guys? So it automatically shifted. And I guess the biggest learning I had during this pandemic is to be always on your toes. Sorry. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you play tennis, I don't know if you play tennis. When you're playing tennis, you can't be flat on your feet. You can't be, your right foot and left foot can't be flat. You have to be on your toes because you don't know where the ball's going. If it's going right or left, you have to shift the other way. And a lot of times business can be a pain because, there's not just one ball, there's 100 balls because you have to move left and right. So, but once this is all over, it's still wise to have a 5-year plan and all those things. But even if you don't meet it, don't beat yourself up or blame. And it's also not cool to blame the pandemic because it happens, stuff like this happens. And if you mope around, and God knows, for like a few weeks or even a month, I was moping because I was like, oh damn, it's not ending. What am I gonna do? And that paralyzes me because I'm thinking, I keep thinking what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do with all my investors and all my plans for us. But you can't sit around and mope it. So it took me a month to learn it, but at least we're here at the point that we're more defensive and we're more active when it comes to our solutions and stuff. We're kind of in a good place now, but of course we want the pandemic to be over and stuff. And but I guess one more thing that I wanted to add here is your employees and your team, because if you're facing uncertainty as an entrepreneur, they're also facing uncertainty. They also feel lost. They also don't know what they're gonna do. They also, don't know when their next paycheck will be. And as much as possible, even if you're stressed and even if there's so much on your plate, you have to look back and, see what you can do for your entrepreneur. So I kind of like what Mr. Paul said about, his talks and stuff. We kind of did it as well because, so I'm 28. I'm already the oldest person in my company. All my employees are 20 to 22. And you know how millennials are, they say that millennials are this and that, sensitive. I will confirm that it's very true. They are so sensitive. So as much as possible, you baby them and you try your best, appease them. It's gonna be all right. It's something like that. But you try your best. You try your best with your clients. You try your best getting more new clients who need your service talaga. And you do your best with your employees also. So yeah. Next question, please.
Oh, great, great. So these are truly an exhibit of resilience amidst very trying times, right? So that is a hallmark characteristic of a leadership character of an entrepreneur. So Paul, Pia, and Josh, with their respective levels of success, for sure there are also others who help you along the way, particularly your professional networks. So as Robert Kiyosaki would say, your network is your net worth, right? So how did your professional network play a part in your success? To start with Paul.
Yeah. I'm the kind of person, I think Bingoy will attest to this, and maybe Sansan will attest to this as well. During college and during high school, actually, during college and high school, I didn't really have so many friends, but I would have a lot of people that I know, and in any business whatsoever, it's important that we build relationships. When people ask me if I'm a salesman, I don't think I am. What I am is probably just a friend trying to help a friend, because I've never really, after 20 years, I am still in my natural market when it comes to approaching and offering my services to clients. No, so the relationships, the network that we're looking at in Ateneo is a big network. Maybe during our time in the 80s, maybe that was a more, how would you call it? Maybe that was a more cozy network, or a smaller network. Maybe it was a more familiar network as compared to in the late 2000s, maybe, diba? But that got me to be introduced to more people and more people through the years. So yeah, if I remember my boys, they told me that they wanted to study in the Ateneo because they said that they would still be working in Davao. So if they studied elsewhere, mangyayari niyan, wala na silang kilala dito sa Davao. And that's really where our market stems from. It's really more personal relationships and recommendations. Yeah.
Okay, for me, in my business, network is very, very important. First, with the suppliers. So you cannot deal with just one supplier. So for the different countries that you serve, there will be different suppliers, that would be part of your network. And then there would be the customers. The network that I get from the Ateneo community is very big. I have classmates, schoolmates who ask for my assistance when it comes to traveling. So that network has also, helped me, and I get referrals from their families and their friends. So that way, it helps me a lot in my business. And also, I also make sure that I have a network with people in the same industry as I am. So I am in the same association with Mr. Borromeo, which is the Davao Tourism Association. And then we have other associations like the Davao Association of Tour Operators and the Davao Travel Agencies Association. So this association helps us be stronger as, as an industry. So instead of being competitors, we help each other in, getting contacts, getting suppliers, and everything. So With this, I say network is a very, very important factor, especially in my industry. When it comes to clients, to suppliers, and colleagues in the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I obviously have to agree because this is all about network. That's legitimate. That's legit. But uh, I guess uh, I guess it's also remembering that I think I like what Mr. Paul said. It's not a data thing. A lot of people, there are a lot of networking institutions out there, and they say it's personal and they say it's relational, but at the end, it's not really, because you don't really make a friend, or you don't, get into a deeper relationship with other people, right? So it becomes more transactional and stuff. But um, I guess my only advice would be, don't uh, anywhere you are, and anywhere you go, any place you meet, any venue that you're in, that is always an avenue to reach out to other people. And that's what networking is. It's about reaching out to other people, making an impact as much as possible, or and that becomes very rudimentary, and it becomes a process when you think about it, and it becomes more you become more involved in certain situations also. But I guess when I was in Ateneo College, when I was not like I was like a star student, because I'd love to go out, just play stuff, and spend time with my friends. So I really didn't take it that seriously. But what I'm kind of amazed in is just being an Atenean makes sense. So I'm not being elitist about this, but I'm from Ateneo Davao. Okay, so I'm not from ADDU or anything, but my business is run here in Manila. And whenever I say I'm from Ateneo, okay, so when I meet an Atenean, I say I'm from Ateneo, and automatically the doors open. You guys are friends, you can talk about it. Tapos when you meet somebody from LaSalle or another school, you say you're from Ateneo, and then automatically they're like, huh, and then you say, no, from Davao, and then the doors open again. So it's a good balance. So yeah, that's that for me. So the Ateneo name, the Ateneo brand really makes sense.
Okay, so okay, that was really something, no? So we can also use that. Participants, you can also use Josh strategy. Okay, so we're already almost at the end of our time. So maybe now that you have presented that you have to use your professional network as well also as your alumni network. One of the reasons why we are doing these webinars is really to help our new graduates. So maybe before we go into our open forum, you'd have something to say to our participants here, and they actually have their batches and their courses, okay, attached to their name. What are your some of the final words, okay? Any strategies that you would like to give to them, or maybe some other lessons? So this is coming from our questions, and then later on we will move to the open forum. So go ahead, Paul.
Lessons.
Well, what final words, final lessons? It's up to you.
Parting words lang muna, not final.
Okay.
Although I'm in the insurance industry, let's not call it final words.
I
Yeah,
get it.
like
But
the same as this.
after this. Okay, go ahead. Be sorry.
The same as Josh. Ba, I was never really also an A student in college. It was really more of a learning and growing experience with people. And we never have to, okay, let me rephrase this. Forget about your limitations. I think that's really what you have to take away. Since we are all believers, now we believe that we are created in the image and likeness of our Lord. We should never be limited to just being okay about a certain thing. There will always be something that you can do better, something that you can contribute, something that you will be able to give moving forward. And if that turns out to a business, then great, diba? But it's really more about service first. Yung sinasabi na Ateneo before, I would always mouth the words men and women for others. I just mouth it. But 20 years down the road in this industry, that's really exactly who we are and what we do. We try to be of service and we try to be men and women for others. And stemming from that foundation, dyan na lang siguro tayo. That's where dyan tayo maghuhugot. Kasi we should be able to transform ourselves, reinvent ourselves to be better and to be better contributors. Those are the parting words at these points.
For me, this pandemic has taught me a lot. When the pandemic started, I told myself, okay na yan, hanggang June lang yan. Kaya lang, nandito na tayo sa September, and yet, parang wala pa. Hindi ko pa nakikita yung dulo kasi nung tunnel. But, one thing that I have learned from this is, if there is something like, as I said, kung talagang walang-wala ka na. You need to find something in your life that you are, aside from the one that you're doing, find something that you are very passionate about. For me, it's always passion passion for service. When I give service to my clients, it's always about like how can I do it in a way na I do more than what's expected of me. So like during this time, if you are very passionate about one thing, first look for other opportunities, probably swaying a little bit on the right, but like staying there. Like for me, it's like I do not want to abandon the tourism industry, but I want to learn more about, I want to teach and I want to learn more. So during this time, take the time, kung during this time na wala pa talagang business and we have more time in our hands, try to do something that is that would help you and prepare you for the opening of the world again after this crisis that we are in now. Yeah.
What do I say? Okay, I guess a parting thought would be so growing up, because I wasn't really from Davao. I grew up in Manila. I just went to Davao for high school and college. So, but there's always, I guess in a nutshell, disadvantages are always in your head lang. When you think you're at a disadvantage, that's just something in your head, and that's not really reality. Because I remember starting out, Xpanse and being in the same industry with, kids from Ayala and kids from, really rich kids with rich parents or whatever. My background is I'm a pastor's kid, so if you're a pastor's kid here or a pastor's kid, you're really born into wealth. Also, so I really hate this about a lot of people. I have this misconception where everybody thinks that sometimes ADDU is not in the same level as ADMU, or some people would say, you're just from Davao, you're not really in the Manila class or whatever. But those are nothing. Reality, these are nothing. I beat every single person who went to me and said those things to me. And that's because I did not let a disadvantage or the perception of the disadvantage chain me down. So whenever people would diss my school and say, "Ah, you're from ADDU" and stuff like that, I'm like, "Nah, man, you're not." I mean, like that doesn't do anything. That's not a disadvantage. So it's also shocking. It's almost like tunnel vision. You know what I mean? Like it's this mindset that I'm gonna make it, and no matter what hurdles come against me or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get there, hell or high water. I'm gonna get there. So I saw through the chat there's a lot of people who are 2020, 2019, and I'm 28, but I already feel old. There are 2020 graduates here. But yo, don't think about it. Now. I didn't have good grades. I was just playing Dota while I was skipping class and going. Don't do that. Don't do that. But those things that you think that I'm just this and that. And a lot of my fellow graduates from my class who are honor section, really the smartest people I know. Whenever I ask them, "Oh, what are you doing now?" And no, Josh, I don't want to do anything because I'm just from this and this. I'm not really. I'm like, no. Those are things that are hindering you, and those are not realities. Those might be, I mean, yeah, okay, fine, they might be realities, but those are not limitations. Those are stuff that you can't let hinder your progress, or you can't let hinder like your passion. Like, yeah. So that's for me. Yeah.
Binks.
Okay.
Binks.
Yes, Paul.
San, can I
Go ahead.
add just one more thing? Just one more thing.
Go ahead.
During the quarantine, there's this friend of mine who was doing a lot of volunteer work, and she told me, this is a once in a lifetime situation that we're in right now, and we have to make the most out of this pandemic. We have to be able to define who we are in this pandemic, because it may never happen again in our lifetime. And if we are able to survive this at this point in time, and when things are even better, we will be very, very good. We will be extremely successful in whatever it is that we do. Kasi may pinagdaanan tayo. So, wag natin sayangin yung pandemic, because this is a time for us to prove to ourselves that we are better than who we actually think we are. And saying from what Josh said, two batchmates of mine, they were really just cruising through high school and college, but they ended up being the president of my phone, a batchmate of mine from Davao, and another batchmate of mine was with Nissan, and he was with Samsung also in the higher ups, I think second to the expats. So us being here, this is a great place for us to be, because we can be whoever we want to be. We have no preconceived notions na dapat ganito, dapat ganyan, kasi kaya natin lahat.
That's a very good point, Paul. No, like as mentioned here in the chat box from Grace this is Grace Nerpiol. She said, "Cura personalis." If you're familiar with that, no, that's very Atenean. So yeah, true. No, I think these days the measure of success is more about how much you can give, not how much you can take from the market, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, San, do you think we still have time for some of the solicited questions during the registration?
So probably we'll just have one. I think I reviewed some of the most of the questions were already answered by our speakers at one point or the other. So maybe final question. Any tips on forming connections as a fresh graduate without any experience in the field, especially as an introvert? No, so added. No, so can you just briefly give some tips? How do they form connections? Start with Paul, of course.
Okay. How to form connections? First off, you have to you have to take out the labels that you're putting on yourself. Who said that you're an introvert? Who said that you're a fresh graduate? Take out those labels, because that in itself is already a self-limiting belief. You're limiting yourself to that box. No, why? Oh, you, Pia, Josh, myself, Bikoy, and Sansan, all of us, we have the same faculties, diba? 2 hands, 2 feet, 1 mouth, 2 ears, 2 eyes. We're all okay, right? So for me, I will go back to the basic and probably be what Bikoy had said. Find a way to give back. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be stuff. It can always be time. It can always be just reaching out to somebody and saying, hello, how are you? And I realized that this pandemic has made all of us farmers and no longer hunters. We have to plant the seeds of goodwill. We have to plant the seeds of hope and responsibility. No? We have to plant those seeds of hope and be responsible for not just ourselves, especially now. We have to be responsible for everybody else that we meet, and not have them get sick or anything, by being responsible citizens also of our city. Yun talaga yun. Go back to the basics and say na, I am not limited. I am only limited to what I think I am. Because my father would always tell me, if you think you can't, well, you're right. If you think you can, you can. If you think you cannot, you're right. So life is what you make it. Yun yung sa akin. Don't limit yourself to say that you're an introvert. Find professionals who will be able to mentor you and guide you through. Because I'm sure the speakers, my co-speakers here have had mentors. Like Josh would say, si Oliver is probably a mentor of his. Si Pia, the family is a strong mentor, and the association is a strong mentor. Me, I also have my mentors. Bingko is a mentor of mine. He would teach me so many things. That's such is life. Such is life. Family is a mentor. No? So why are we limiting ourselves? Yun siya. Masyadong existential, ano?
I think kasi yung pag sinabi mo kasing introvert ka, yung, di ba, parang you're not that comfortable being with people. But I went through this ikapono experience once, and the speaker told me, you know what, introvert ako, pero at the same time, pwede rin ako mag-switch. I can also be an extrovert. And he was, the speaker, and he does speak to big, big group.
Okay, parang nag-lag si Pia. Pia?
Hello.
Okay, go ahead.
So there are times that I want to be alone, but there are also, but I can switch. I can switch to another persona of myself. So as I think it's not just, like as Mr. Paul said, you just have to find a person or a mentor that who can help you with how you network. Like for me personally, I can't say na extrovert na ako ever. Grade school, high school, I'm just in one corner. I don't have much friends. I just study. I'm there with my books. But everything was different when I started college. Kasi like that's when I started doing the networks. I only reconnected with, the high school batch last year, sa totoo lang. Parang kumbaga, that was the only time na parang, wow, enjoy pala talaga nung high school. Kasi, they had a lot of stories, but that stories, hindi ko siya nadaanan because I was always on one side of the classroom. Wala akong masyadong happening sa aking life. So, but, you can always, try to improve yourself. And eventually, you can start your own network. You can do anything that you can want. Just like Sir Paul said, do not limit yourself kasi if you just say na ay hindi ko talaga to kaya, totoo, hindi mo na talaga maaabot 'yon. So find a goal in life, find something that you are passionate about, and then sige, strive to get that goal, to achieve that goal for yourself. It doesn't matter if you're shy, nahihiya ka na makipag-usap dun sa tao, sa kliyente. Time will come, it will be easy na because you have practiced it already. Maybe it's not automatic for you, but in time you learn to do it. Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. I guess that covers a lot of things about how to make a network. But I guess the question is the person who asked the question, he or she is a fresh grad and she's asking how to make connections. I just want to attack it from a different angle. If you're a fresh grad and you just got out of college, I don't think connections should be your number one priority right now. Your number one priority is to learn your skills, hone something that you're good at. Or actually, first find what you're good at first, because the things that you learn from college, they do very little. I mean, not even little, but there's much more to learn out there when you're actually doing stuff and you're actually experiencing it firsthand. So knowing your industry, understanding your competitors, and understanding the skills involved to lead people, to manage people, understanding marketing skills, sales skills, pitches, all those things. These are stuff that you have to be focused on first. Networking comes and goes. Like I said earlier, I think the concept of networking shouldn't be a primary in your head. It has to be a default where any person you meet or any venue you're at, you're already networking. So that's a passive thing inside of you. But if you're a fresh grad, and for anyone who's a fresh grad here, and for those who are still, questioning what they're supposed to do with their lives or whatever, I think the first thing you have to do is really hone your skill first. Sharpen your swords before you share your sword. You know what I mean? So I guess that's what I want to focus on. And but I totally agree with the other speaker said about how to make a network and how you shouldn't be labeling yourself. Definitely, you shouldn't be labeling yourself. But more than all those things, it's leveling up, growing, and that's it. Basically, just growing in whatever field you're in or you want to be in.
All right. So with that, I would like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank our participants for the questions they sent in, and I'd like to thank our guests for providing us with valuable insights and answers. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of this webinar, and on behalf of the Ateneo Career Center and Alumni Hub and the Ateneo Blue Knight Association, we would like to thank everyone for taking the time out to join us, and again for our guests for sharing their expertise with us. And also, for this webinar, we'll be issuing e-certificates. However, we'll be giving them after you fill up the evaluation. So I'm going to share the link to our evaluation here. So please, one second. So please go to this link, and then I would like to ask everyone to please evaluate this session. And after you are done with the evaluation, we will send you the certificates for this webinar. Please allow us about 3 to 5 days before we will be able to send it. Now, before we all leave, so again, thank you everyone. So before we all leave, I'd like to ask everyone to please join us in the singing of the Blue Knight song.
Sing God, proclaim your right. The clash of battle is sweet to hear when the victory is here. So grateful night spread on the land to the farthest ocean strand. With hearty songs sing loud the flame of our Ateneo name. Let all unite so down to God's high command. Your hearts out, go onward onto the fight, where glory is shining bright. Oh, shake the mountains with your song and with your banners fly along.
So again, thank you everyone, and you are now dismissed. So again, to get your certificates, please go to this evaluation link and kindly fill up the evaluation.
By the way, Mr. Paul Borromeo has an invitation for everyone. You may copy the link in the chat box.